Well, one of the silver linings from the insane COVID era is that we managed to find some really, truly excellent people. And I have the privilege of having one of those excellent people as my guest right now. It is none other than Monica Smit, who I have to admit, before I even let her on to speak for herself, I'm a little bit jealous because, well, fine, I'll let her talk for herself. Monica, where are you joining us from?
I'm in Cornwall in the UK, so it's the southwest of England, and yes, it's a beautiful area. So I would be jealous too if I was
And
you.
and just to make matters worse, we were just chatting off air before we started. Where are you going to next?
Italy, Greece, Croatia, all those terrible places.
Oh. Look, I'm really tempted just to reach for the button and cancel the interview, but I'm not going to because Monica Smit, for anyone that doesn't know who you are,
Okay.
and honestly, who doesn't know who you are, but anyone that doesn't know who you are, in my opinion, one of the most courageous people that emerged. The cream rose to the top during the COVID era down in Melbourne. You showed extraordinary courage, refusing to sign ridiculous, obscene bail conditions, and you went to prison for 22 days for your trouble. You're now in Europe. That's a long way from Australia. It's just about as far away as you can get and still be on the same planet. Why in the world are you there?
Well, firstly, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing here if it wasn't for prison. So the joke is on them because it gave me such a great introduction to almost anybody. And so I've been having events all over Europe. I've driven over 12,000 kilometers. I've been to over 10 countries. I'm driving in a van with a bed in the back. So I sleep in the car sometimes and I'm just making it through on my own. And I've been to events of 30 people or 100 people or 150 people or even five people.
Mm.
And I've had over about 25 events in 10 different countries because the reason, well, the personal reason I wanted to come here was, to be honest, get away from Australia for a little bit, try to
That's fair.
remember who I was before all of the COVID stuff because I kind of lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the personal reason. But the professional reason, and when I say professional, I'm a full time freedom loving activist. So my professional reason for doing this is that I want to be able to speak on authority about the freedom movement,
Mm.
about the people, about the generalizations. I'll be able to make really accurate generalizations that perhaps other people won't. I've hugged and shaken hands with maybe over 1,000, independent freedom lovers. I've stayed at their houses. I've done all these
Mm.
things. I've eaten, broken bread with them and things like that. So I can make those sort of assertions. The other thing is that I want to be able to show the world by writing about each country I go to and all the different movements and initiatives. I want to show the world that the freedom movement is diverse, it's powerful, it's strong, and that there's a lot more of them than you
Mm.
think because the freedom people, generally speaking, we don't like hierarchy. We want to be decentralized. Yeah. So we can sometimes feel like our group is the only one, but oh my gosh, it is not. So that's what I'm doing. In between, I'm still running Reignite Democracy Australia,
Sure.
and I'm doing a few hikes and enjoying the scenery too because I'm allowed to.
Well, it's an extraordinary sort of, I guess, turn of events from where you were. You were in a cell, you were locked away. But before we talk about that, can you tell us about the We Are Ready campaign? This is something is this your project that you're spearheading, or have you gotten on board something that someone else had sort of spearheaded? I mean, from the Dutch farmers to the Canadian truckers all over the world, we're seeing this proliferating. What is We Are Ready?
So it's a team of people, but it started off with an event called We Are Ready. That was in May on the 20th, and there was 202 events all over the world on the same
Mm.
day, and they were more like community events as opposed to
Sure.
protests. And I think the messaging really is that we've already decided that we're not going to go down the path of digital ID, digital currency, slavery, things like that. We've already decided that.
Mm.
So we may as well pretend to be ready, even if we're not. My mum told me when I was younger to fake it till you make it. And I've really lived by that saying. That doesn't mean to be a fake person. What it means is that the more that you say something to yourself, the more you're going to
Mm.
believe it. And I have been using that term, we are ready, on myself for the last 3 months. And I'll tell you what, it basically has dissipated all my fear. And when I see headlines like about the disinformation or misinformation
Mm-hmm.
bill, instead of being like afraid or jumping on my computer to start a petition or something, I actually look at that and I just laugh. And I'm just like, well, come on, then we just hurry up. We are ready.
Sure.
Like, do it
Sure.
then. And so it's changed my mindset. And so I've been this is one of my main points on all of my talks. So I usually talk for about 20 minutes at these events. And my lasting message is that instead of being afraid, we may as well be excited because we're already on this
Mm.
path. So let's just be excited
Well, I'll
about
tell you
it.
what I'm excited about is that obviously you've been meeting with some truly excellent people. I'll give you an example here. This gentleman here that you met in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, must be one of the finest people alive, because halfway around the world, he's somehow managed to get his hands on one of my shirts. The Good People Break Bad Laws shirt. So clearly the caliber of person, you're saying anywhere from 5 to 150 people, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the caliber, and we can see right here that they must be some of the finest people you're ever likely to meet.
Yeah, and on that, before you go to anything else, I would like to make a assertion about the people. Is that you know that saying, "Don't judge a book by its
Sure.
cover." I hate that saying. I think it's ridiculously stupid, because we all judge books by the cover, and we should, because that's what protects us. But the reason I'm saying that is because the people that I've met, they're just so clean looking, Topher. And I don't care what people think that I mean about that, but they are. They're just normal, regular people who want their kids and their grandkids to have a better life. They don't have earrings hanging out everywhere. They don't
Sure.
have pink hair. You know, like people from other movements, you can pick them out from a crowd. You cannot pick our people out from a crowd, because they are just regular people. And I'm so proud to be in amongst these people, because every time I leave, I feel more inspired and I feel better than I did when I first got there. And, you know, none of our ideas are original, Topher.
No.
They're all tidbits from people that we meet. And so meeting all these people is definitely inspiring me in a way that I can't quite know until later.
Well, ordinary people who have excellent taste in T-shirts, I'll say that much. Now, speaking of judging a book by its cover, this is your book. I do actually really like this cover. I think you've picked a really good photograph of yourself. Cell 22, of course, was your cell number for the bulk of your stay in prison. I've read this book. You were kind enough to send me a pre-edited or a pre-editing version of it that I read, thoroughly enjoyed, and then had the privilege of writing the foreword for you. I rate this book, but there is some conjecture. Some people, you know, we both have trolls. You have trolls, I have trolls. The trolls have been in my comments recently saying, "Oh, she didn't write that behind bars. She was commenting about how she was writing her book only just a few months ago." So can you just clear the decks for me here? Some of this definitely was written behind bars. Some of it definitely wasn't. In my opinion, you make that very clear in the book. But tell me about the genesis of this book.
Actually, I started writing it in January 2021, so about 8 months before prison,
right.
actually. So I got arrested 3 times in one day, October 31st, 2020. And a lady contacted me and said, you know, you should start writing a book. And I thought that was a good place to start the book at, you know, getting arrested, being put in a divvy van in Australia, you know, 3 times in one day. I was a journalist. I had all my permits and things on the day. I thought that was a pretty good story. Started writing the book. And then when I went to prison, I was like, oh, this story got even better. So actually it's been, and actually I'll be honest with you, the biography part of it, which is like shorter, I actually wrote 7 years ago.
Yeah, right.
For some reason, I had some sort of epiphany that one day I'm gonna need it. So I started writing it 7 years ago. So, you know, it has been the longest project of my life so far, except for, I guess, Australia getting its human rights back, because that's ongoing. But other than that, it's been a labor of love and sometimes very difficult as well, because every time you read it, you have to relive everything, which is just like bring the trauma all back again. So I'm kind of sick of reading my own book at this point. Yeah.
Well, I said in the foreword that I wrote, and that is a part of the book, and I've published an extract from it on my own social media. You were kind enough to publish parts of that same extract on your social media. In my opinion, of all of the many great works that Monica Smit has accomplished, that book, the one that people will hold in their hands, is arguably your greatest work. I think it's truly extraordinary and something that people will go into it thinking they know what it's about. They will go into it thinking they know what they're about to read, and every single person is absolutely wrong. No one knows what they're getting into when they pick up that book. Now, tell me about this. On the back of the book, this is the back cover, you've actually got a quote here from Robert Kennedy Jr. saying that you're one of the greatest freedom fighters in Australia, a sentiment I agree with, by the way. But how in the world did Robert Kennedy Jr. even find out that you exist?
Well, I don't want to gloat, but I'm going to. It's
like, be my guest.
We are on text message we are on text message basis.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, if you've got it, gloat about it.
Yeah, but Yeah, I mean, look, he actually said that sentence in a video, and I asked him if I could use it as a
Sure.
quote, and he gave me my permission to do his permission to do so. So that's how it got there. But to be honest, it's a bit cringy to design your own back cover, you know, putting a quote like that on the back. But the thing is, I have to get over it because there is only one way to promote a
Yeah.
biography, and that is to promote
Mm-hmm.
it yourself. So it is what it is. I'm going to have to get over it. So it's not my favorite part, though.
Well, you definitely are. Look, you and I met in 2020, and we've met each other a few times since, but certainly had a lot to do with each other online. You were in my documentary Battleground Melbourne. I was in your very first online anti-lockdown protest that you ran and did so beautifully. That really sort of launched the Reignite Democracy Australia. What's next for Monica Smit? You've got this book coming out. We're going to put the link for people that want to buy a copy of the book in the description of this video. But a book is one thing. A book is talking about what you've done. What's next? What are you working towards?
Well, the book might open avenues that I can't even see possible at the moment. As you know, the content is not just about prison,
Sure.
and the other content, and I can give people a teaser. There's some stories of sexual abuse and just absolute trauma for a young girl to go through. And I actually hope that I can springboard off that to perhaps start something different, which I think is actually more meaningful. I think that these types of topics around sexual abuse and pedophilia and all these types of things, I think it needs to be a dinner conversation. Unfortunately, it's come to that point where we have to talk to our kids about it before the TV gets them or before the perpetrators get to them, actually. Things like, not having sleepovers, things like that. I won't go into too much detail, but I think I might want to work in that field more with young women, especially because I can use what I learnt to hopefully inspire them to not make the same mistakes I did. That would actually be my dream. In fact, that was my dream 7 years ago. So it'd be interesting if I did a full circle and ended up doing that. But in the immediate future, I will be back in Australia before Christmas, and I plan to do a tour of Australia, just like what I've done in Europe. So small events along the way. So I hope people will have me, and I will get to meet as many freedom lovers in Australia as I possibly can. That's the immediate future.
Well, once you have some dates and some venues and you know what you want to do, let me know. I'll make sure that my entire database and the Aussie Wire database know all about where you're going to be and when. Cell 22, I rate it. I think it's a fantastic book. I say in my foreword that it's a book that benefited me greatly reading it, even now as a 41-year-old father of 3. It would have benefited me had I read it 20 years ago, and I think it would benefit young women greatly to read it because of so many reasons, for so much of what is in there. Monica Smit, thank you so much for all the work that you have done, all the work that you continue to do, and I look forward to continuing to interview you here from time to time and to work with you in the fight for freedom here on the Aussie Wire. Thank you so much for joining us.
See you soon.